walrus.
Yeah, cartoon walrus.
And welcome to the stream.
Welcome to Cartoon Walrus.
Welcome to the Cartoon Walrus Show. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. It's a stream. Unsurprisingly. Well, perhaps surprisingly. I don't know, because we didn't have one yesterday. So, apologies for that. I was elsewhere. I was in a field. Listening to music that was too loud, gosh darn it.
Should have stopped it with "I was in a field." That's very mysterious.
I was, yeah, it's less mysterious when you realise I was listening to music and eating pizza. But, you know, it was nice pizza. It was made in an oven right in front of me. A fire-fueled oven.
Feel pizza.
Wood-fueled is what I meant to say, but it also had fire in it.
Fire pizza.
Fire pizza. It was called, I think, like... Oh yeah, it was called wood-fired pizza. And I'm like, people usually call it cooked. But, whatever. Yeah. Whatever works.
It's a kiln.
A kiln. It was nice. Let's hop on over to see things that are happening. Whoosh. There we go. There's stuff. And let's also hop on over to Adrian von Ziegler. Get their smooth sounds. Apologies if there's anything janky about the audio today, because everything has been janky about the audio, which is why there were 40 seconds of silence at the beginning of the stream. Music was supposed to be playing, but it just said no. So, but then I made it say yes. Oh, and also everything's broken there. Oh god, I'm dispelling illusions. There, go away. Just leave me be. Trying to make this seem that I'm bad. One day away from streaming and I've forgotten how to do everything. We are audible, right? Yeah, we are. Okay, that's good. Right, yes, we're back. We're back veering. Veering into a ravine. And I don't know, what is that to do? How do we do these streams?
I don't remember.
Does anybody remember? I don't withdraw, I guess. But we start with some cats. There is a cute, very worried-looking cat there who really wants treats. We've also got Mr. Tubbs being distracted by a blood bee. Oh, does Mr. Tubbs's idle animation involve them chasing bees? Probably.
I mean, it would be very cute.
And there was also a cat, I tried to make a cat out of the Via wheel, and it didn't really work. It just looks like cheese that you probably shouldn't eat. It's gone off a bit. But hey, we're easing back into this after one day of missing a stream.
Also heat.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I should point out, very hot today. I was told that yesterday was going to be the hottest day for a bit, but no, today has been hotter and more humid.
Yay!
The best of both worlds.
I'm even more impressed at your computer now.
Oh, that's poor thing. I'm impressed at my drawing tablet. I do have a fan running at the moment. It's very, very quiet, but it's enough to get air ventilating on my drawing tablet so that it's not constantly glitching out, which it does in heat. Yes, but last we were here. There's a Kiro. Hello. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're cooler. Ooh, hello. There are things that have been posted in the chat. Here.
I'm working on the cottagecore witch for the forest, and I need some design advice because I don't design.
Oh, that's cool. Your design advice is you're doing great.
Thanks, but
not helpful advice. Looks real cool. which, as I say, not helpful, but that's what I got. Yee. So,
I mean, I'm mostly just looking at the fact that we have witches and also wizards, and I'm reminded of the distinction of that in the Terry Pratchett novels.
Yep.
What's the distinction?
Well, I mean, it's sort of with what we've got. So witches are. Have you ever heard of Nanny Ogg?
No, sorry.
I heard vaguely of.
Yeah, so witches. Okay, so it's a little hard to summarize in just sort of a sentence, but yeah, Kiro, Discworld.
Discworld.
Witches are sort of more community oriented, and wizards are sort of what we have here, feral academics. But you've also got so there's two witches in the stories. One's a younger witch, one's an older witch, where one conversation comes up where the younger witch is trying to convince people that microbiology is a thing and they are getting sick because there are things in the well, literally little microbes in the well, and they need to boil their water in order to not get sick. And no one believes her, and then the older witch is just kind of like, yeah, there's evil spirits in the well. Boil the water and it'll scare the evil spirits away. And the younger witch is just kind of like, but they need to know what the problem is. And the older witch is like, who cares? I've solved the problem.
Love Discworld. Granny Weatherwax. Nanny Ogg. I don't know any of the names. Vague things I know about Discworld are that I think there's a librarian who's an orangutan.
What? That's amazing.
And the library's got like an alternate dimension in it, because that's sort of physical manifestation of what happens when you read. Something like that. L-space? This is all second-hand information. I haven't actually consumed anything directly from which this comes. It's people I know who know these things. But yeah, Discworld be good. I will eventually get around to actually reading or listening to audiobooks of those. I've seen they did some TV specials a while ago. They did The Hogfather. There was a joint version of the first two books, Colour of Magic and The Light Fantastic, I think they were called. And Going Postal. And that's all I've consumed directly. Is an orangutan not a monkey? Do not ever call him a monkey. Okay, good to know. That's probably why I remember orangutan specifically. Yeah. So are we gonna
Feels.
There was one doing the rounds on Tumblr recently, which was Discworld's in-universe explanation as to the Pavlovian response, which was basically somebody had conditioned their dog upon ringing a bell to eat a pavlova.
That's much more wholesome.
Oh, and that character's name was Denephew, because the parents were expecting a daughter and they were going to call him Denise.
Okay, I'm in on this now. Jesus.
This is a great sense of humor.
Pratchett puts a lot of weird jokes in his stories, but it works because one, it's memorable. Two, real life is sometimes just weird and silly because humans are just weird and silly.
Humans be dumb, and it's funny sometimes. That's a book I would read.
Well, Pratchett made like 30, 40. How many did he make? There were a lot. Oh, I missed this. Kira, your left eye is swollen shut. That's not good.
Why
don't know
does
why.
it keep happening?
Kira's life needs to be better to Kira, frankly. I'm going to write a letter of complaint to life. Probably allergies, plenty of home remedies. You know it'll be fine eventually, so you try not to panic. Well, here's hoping it clears up quickly. You got things to help sort it all out, and you're prepared, and that's good. Having a thing to do. You're not sitting there going, "Oh no, I don't know what this is," which is the worst part.
Okay.
For puzzles, you're sorry, but all you can think of is the silly logic box puzzles, where you help organize a couple of warehouses in the harbour. I think you got harbour right. Let's scroll and find. You did. And you get to keep whatever items you find in any not mimic chests while organizing. Nice.
Fun.
Yeah, the sliding puzzle game with warehouse stuff makes sense.
Yeah, I sort of figured here. I remember a puzzle like that, and a couple of. God, the main one I remember is Tales of the Abyss.
Any feedback on my boring witch outfit?
It's nice. What? Tell me a bit about the character. What's the?
Very connected to nature, like a female cottagecore dainty Radagast. Has an animal companion that might be a vole. I'm not sure yet. Everything in their house is themed like those old, those old pottery jars that's like strawberries and oranges where you keep sugar and stuff, and the plates are those lettuce leaf ceramic plates and everything. But it's very competent.
Well, the first thing I think of if you want to, this is something that a piece of advice I'm going to regret giving you, because I regret thinking of it for myself, because I'm saddled with it for basically every character in Avonvale. Belts with pouches.
Ooh, right.
That I can carry around like lots of herbs and unguents. Go picking through the forest to get the things that they need. Yeah, drawing. Just go away. Sorry,
Well, I mean, apron with many pockets and pouches did used to be the housewife garb, as it were.
I
just use
remember
it.
this. Now that you say it, I wanted to sew one at one point for collecting eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it used to be women's clothes had all of the pockets, and then people decided to take away our pockets.
Not fair. Everybody should have as many pockets as physically possible.
And hilariously enough, that was actually a contention point. Feminism at the time is, hey, pockets.
Do you not have them? Or
More pockets. Everybody has pockets. Pockets are really. I don't know what I would do without pockets. Where do you put your hands?
I'm an old person. I put them behind my back.
Or you can. God, what's his name? the actor that plays Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek?
I was about to say Patrick McGowan, then that's not right.
Sir Patrick Stewart.
That's the one. It was Patrick.
Yeah, so those outfits don't have pockets in them. And apparently everyone else on set was a little awkward at first trying to figure out where to put their hands. But Sir Patrick Stewart is a trained Shakespearean actor, and those outfits also do not have pockets. So when it was asked, hey, where do you put your pockets, his answer was nowhere. Just keep them at your side.
Or on your forehead. Depending on the context. I should probably explain what I'm doing as well. So, puzzles. Last time I came up with this stupid idea of there being like an armor stand in the Golden City, and if you put particular armor on it, according to images on a stained glass window, which depict some warriors of old, if you get their armor and you put it on the stand, then that opens some doors and you can get goodies, including the mythical bucket armor. And I drew a rough idea of the room, and I drew the stand, and then I thought I should probably design these mythical warriors of yore and their weird armor. So I'm trying to come up with funny shapes for armor. That's basically what I'm doing at the moment.
Fun shapes.
How strange can one make shapes? An armor. I did this on stream once before, much less successfully. Trying to kickstart doing concept art for a game that I've had in my head for God knows how long. And the main character is a possessed suit of armor. And I was like, I want to come up with a fun design for the armor, and I failed. So...
That's like just looking at armor. Like I have a Pinterest folder filled with different kinds of armor, and I just can't. I look at them and I get tired of the details. I can't like see it and replicate any of it because it's just too much. Visual overload.
We did. What was the thing? We were talking about this. There was actually a thing that had a reference for armor. Oh, yes. I think Oobs shared somewhere a blog that somebody did about designing an outfit for the doll from Bloodborne, but if she was in Elden Ring. And they went on a deep dive doing research for this. The first paragraph was all about Catholicism. And I just remember the one thing I saw on there was just a kind of like family tree of helmets of armor throughout the years. And I immediately saved that because I'm like, that's going to come in useful. There it is. Helmets, their kinds and development during the centuries, from AD 600 to beyond the 1600s. There's just like, look at this, good shapes.
Yeah. I mean, the fun thing to me is with a lot of them, if you look at something and go, oh, that's a lot of details, it's there for usually one of two reasons. One, to hold pieces together in such a way that isn't going to immediately injure you. So that's why you've got a lot of like fences and whatnot. Or two, the person making it is just kind of like, fuck it, I'm bored. Let's just press some things into this leather to make it fancy, because fuck it, I'm bored. What else are you going to do in the middle of December?
I was watching a thing about a particular king of England who at some point basically wanted a special helmet. It was his own new design, new cool helmet design, and they came up with a new cool helmet design, and it wasn't very comfortable, and it kept falling off and hurting his nose. And so slowly but surely they just sort of rolled it back and made it a little more conservative, and it's sort of, I don't know, interesting. They tried to take a bold step in a new direction, and everyone went, there's a reason we don't do that.
Yeah. This is what happens when people who don't know anything about combat design things for combat. A similar thing actually happened modernly with Nazi Germany's armor. Their equipment for their soldiers was not designed by someone who actually, does soldiering. It was designed to look impressive, which is fine for dress uniforms, but it's not so fine for this is how you attach your backpack to you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they just had a lot of the lay soldiers just sort of worked around that and wore things in ways that wasn't technically what had to be done, like the uniform standards, because if you were it to uniform standards, your backpack would fall off.
Not ideal. Maybe it was active sabotage, that's the word I'm looking for. Not camouflage. Maybe they were trying to screw him over. Yes,
Maybe,
we'll design
but
your...
I've worked with enough people who make rules that have to be followed by other people to know that sometimes it's also just idiots who don't know what they're talking about. And that's a really neat flowchart.
It's cool, isn't it? That immediately went in my inspirations folder.
Where did you share it?
In the stream channel, Discord channel stream.
Oh. Whoa. I love the spider helmet.
Yeah. That looks good, quite Elden Ring, actually.
Yeah.
Spider helmet. It reminds me of the marionettes from there. Only they took that and did that with all the armor. Not just the helmet, you got the whole armor.
They saw something cool and used it.
And that's basically quite a lot of that series. It's like I've often said, Dark Souls et al. Doesn't really have anything original in it, like in terms of gameplay mechanics, in terms of visual design or character or anything like that. There's nothing really original. It just does what it does really, really well. So you don't always have to be original. You can take ideas that exist and put your own little twists on them and interpret them in different ways. Originality is overrated. Take ideas that haven't been used in interesting ways and use them in interesting ways. But also I will complain about Elden Ring given the time. So somebody change the subject. There's a new comic out. Why we didn't finish Elden Ring? It's on all my socials now. And if you support me on Patreon, there's also an Among Us one. Because I'm down with the kids. I'm hip and up to the moment. Next time, Fortnite. Is that still a thing? We'll still play that?
It's good we're so hip and down with the kids.
Yeah. Somebody hold my skateboard.
I mean, I think Fortnite is still a thing. Last time I checked, they were doing a weird season where it's like, there's no building, it's just fighting, and it's like, so like every other
So
game.
night.
Like, the thing that sets Fortnite up is supposed to be the building, I was under the impression. But you've taken the building out for this season. So...
Like, I remember when Fortnite first came out, and they got a bunch of YouTubers and stuff to sort of stream it, sponsored videos and all that sort of stuff. And it was a survival game. There were like zombies, and you had to build things to get away from the zombies, and they would come at night, and all that sort of stuff. And it was all about the building, and you had to get the materials from places and build things to protect yourself from the zombies. And then they added a online multiplayer thing as a kind of like additional mode. Lord knows what happened to the the non-multiplayer one.
I don't really even think it exists anymore.
Yeah, see, that's interesting to me, because I know that there's another game out there And I don't know what it's called. It's a really type of game I play. Do I have to watch some people play? Where it's a it's a build and protect from zombies, but it is a multiplayer. So you've got like you and your little hub, and you have to build things up, scavenge for materials, survive the zombies, and get to some checkpoint.
Unfortunately, that can describe quite a lot of games, can't it?
Yeah, it's just that I remember there was specifically that building with it with the multiplayer, because there's a lot of multiplayer survive the zombie things. Like Left 4 Dead is one that comes to mind. Left 4 Dead doesn't really have building in it, just shooting things.
Yeah.
I just remember watching one streamer and his little group camp out in like a garage for a while as they're trying to get everyone connected and trying to get base resources so that they can move to the next spot. It's just one person was just pushing up, like building plank walls to cover holes while someone else was doing other things.
The standard delegation of tasks that automatically arises from these games. It's a bit like Raft, really, isn't it? I end up doing the fishing, and Jeeves is the builder, and Lewis is the engineer, etc., etc. I still have no idea how invention works in Raft. I've never touched it. You just work out how to make things somehow. There's a research bench. I've never worked out how that works.
Means that you can get more things done as a whole, but it does mean that any one individual is completely sunk with their own.
I mean, the problem with that is, I'm sure everyone else knows how to fish, so I don't exactly have exclusive skills here. I'm expendable. Yay! I'm kind of happy with those shapes. Is that a tail? Or a windsock?
Huh? Oh, mine. I was thinking with one of the less of a puzzle and more of a game. So I'm thinking, because I've got the viaduct, but maybe this is something that pops up in patients too. Something like sort of a sing-along, as it were. You have an instrument, they have an instrument, they play some notes, you have to hit the keys, play the notes, sort of like with the Ocarina minigame, with the Skull Kids in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. You could probably set up a quest. Well, I guess what I'm what I'm getting at there is the scarecrow from Ocarina of Time. But yeah, you could implement that. Wasn't that? Didn't we have a thing with an instrument already?
A flute in the forest, I think. But we didn't do anything with it story-wise. Did we?
I thought we had something. Oh no, that was something else. Sorry, my brain. That was me remembering the design idea behind in Ocarina of Time. That they were like, we want to have the player do spells, but choosing spells from a menu is boring, so we're going to give them a musical instrument and have them cast spells by remembering songs.
That is just an amazing way of thinking.
That's great.
And then they gave you spells that you had to select from your menu anyway.
Yes, there were also spells. But you know, it's a start. Look, wow, that's a lot of pouches.
Yeah.
Also, all of a sudden, decoration. Look at all that. So
it's
the frills.
Draw.
Yeah. Hidden pouches. Oh, like in the thing, in the sleeve.
Yeah, like the way the sleeves of this kind of dress works is like it's several layers. So I was thinking that like you could hide things in between the layers.
Ah.
But that's like implied. I'm not drawing that.
Left up, right. Left up, right. The whistling is not enough to activate my noise gate. It turns out. It's nice. So now I'm thinking of a mini game which is like, it starts as, hey, what hand is the thing in? Oh, you got it. It was in the left hand. Here's the thing, and it escalates to, which of my hundreds of pouches have I hidden the thing in?
You will never actually get it.
Right. Let's give these a little bit more definition.
Well, and you can give her even more pockets, because they're, and I don't remember what they're called. There is a name for them. There were these sort of tie-on pocket things.
Yeah, for under like here.
Yeah, so they'd go like off to the side.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they were small, but I've seen ones that are big enough to fit like a full-blown baguette in them.
Why not have
It's like
two?
What did I paint?
big pocket.
I've been wanting to make one of those costume designer YouTuber called Benedict Banner. She made this old-timey string pouch purse for under your apron and skirt and stuff. And I was like, that's so useful for when I'm wearing dresses.
Eee. More pockets. Variations on pockets. Pockets within pockets. Pockets strapped under the pockets.
Removable pockets, so that you don't have to remember which pair of pants you put your keys in. It's just in your pockets. And you just re-put on your pockets later.
That's a cool idea. More of that. Clothing manufacturers, get on it. Or everybody, let's make making and changing your own clothes fashionable.
Yeah, mending clothes. Make that like cool again.
Make that the new TikTok trend.
Yeah. I wish I'd learned stuff like that in school instead of sewing a teddy bear.
Hey, at least they taught you sewing in school. One I
Yeah.
got. I had to learn it myself.
I mean, I learned as much as I broke every single sewing machine in the room every single time.
I do sew by hand. Just something about sewing machines, they always get away from me.
Yeah, I prefer, it's caused me to prefer to sew by hand as well, because sewing machines hate me.
That said, the only sewing machine that doesn't get away from me is I have an old sewing machine. I think it was my great-grandmother's, I'm not sure. That's manual. It's not an electric one, so you have to crank a
That's awesome.
wheel in order to progress it, which does mean you have one fewer hand to control the cloth.
But you have more control, I'm assuming.
You have more control over the speed, yeah, that's which is nice.
I mean, technically, even if you have an electric one that's got like a pedal, you do have control over the speed. It's how hard you press the pedal. And as I've tried to tell middle schoolers and high schoolers that I've tried to teach how to sew a quilt, it's a sewing machine, not a race car. Don't push the pedal all the way down to the ground.
Yeah, my problem is like you push down, it feels like on the pedal the smallest amount you possibly could, and it just goes flying. And sometimes you have to push down really, really hard to get it going at all. It's I don't really have
that's a thing
with
that
it.
varies from machine to machine, much like
Yeah,
ours.
it's a bad machine.
Yeah, foot control was one of the things that I was never good at when driving. So,
Me neither.
What? 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 Yes, yes, Automod. I will allow the word pedal.
What?
Why pedal?
Who knows?
That's a new one.
Someone just really hates pedals. They never got the driving license.
Oh, it is. Pedal like the new word that TikTok's banned for no particular reason. Everyone has to do
TikTok bans things? I didn't think they banned anything.
P3D4L
Well,
or something.
they ban words that you probably shouldn't ban, and then they don't remove content that they should probably remove.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
weird.
so the usual.
There's a lot of people on Tumblr taking the mick out of people coming from TikTok to Tumblr for saying like unalive instead of dead.
Oh.
Because dead is a word that's blocked on TikTok.
Game
And on
Grumps have
Tumblr.
been saying unalive as well instead of the S word. Unalive
For similar YouTube reasons. Now, I don't think YouTube necessarily removes content for that, but it will demonetize stuff. So there was a similar problem at the start of the pandemic where if you said the word COVID...
Yeah. That's where the Backstreet Boys came from.
No, yeah. Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Yeah. It didn't exist before this.
Were they actually having a reunion tour, or was that just
No.
No, okay.
I don't think so.
No, but they did get back together sometime around the start of the pandemic, which is just funny.
Oh my goodness, she's gonna have a little chick in her pouch. She can have so many animals in her pouches.
Aminal pouch.
Just has all of the baby animals stuck in her pouches.
Yeah. She helps them.
He didn't get tickets, did I don't know the reference, but I can understand. Can understand the context. All good.
Lord, if she falls over, there's going to be all sorts of fucking sounds happening.
Also use the phrase tickets for the reunion tour to talk about it. It's funny how these things develop.
Well, I mean, basically, it's just corporate enforced euphemisms.
It's you know, it's that's how sort of Cockney rhyming slang came about. That was supposedly people trying to communicate about illicit deeds while the police were around. So they just decided to start rhyming. I don't know precisely how accurate that one is, but
I hope it's true. It's too wholesome not to be. Like, wholesome in badness.
Well, I mean, in general, euphemisms are basically a thing. It's like, this is a thing that's not socially acceptable to talk about, but also people going to talk about it. So we're just going to use different words because the thing that offends people is the word, I guess.
yeah, not the concept. It's just the word.
Yeah.
And now we have it still, but now we have robots enforcing things. And
That is weird.
corporations.
Putting it like that, that's kind of interesting. That we're having our language sort of nominally morphed by sort of the stewardship of robots.
Yeah.
That's kind of strange. we need to humanize our language more so that the robots can't understand it. It's like a sort of capture of language.
When we get old, the language is just like signs and numbers.
I mean, to a certain extent, you've already got that with emojis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because certain combinations of emojis will mean different things. Like eggplant.
They did ban the gun emoji though.
Who did?
There was a realistic gun emoji on Apple.
Oh yeah, they changed that to a
I
water
think.
pistol. Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep clicking between Discord and this reference for helmets that I have. But unfortunately, because of the viewer I have, whenever I click on it, it goes to the previous picture in the folder. And this is just my general, references or pieces of art that I like to take inspiration from folder. And the previous illustration is that, which is just some Lady Dimitrescu doodles. It's like, that's the next picture in the folder, I guess. So it just keeps popping up. It's very good. Who is this by? Gabbit's Art.
Both
This is
heavy
by-
aesthetics.
Yeah. It's the face, the sort of squashing and stretching of the face. I want to practice that. That's very good here. Good expression. Oh, and previous to that, speaking of wizards, the previous thing in that is a selection of hands from the film Sword in the Stone. A bunch of Merlin hands.
I mean, Merlin does have very good hands.
My inspiration folder is weird. There is no organization to it whatsoever. But there is an organization to it, because in that folder are subfolders. For example, one containing all of the concept art from Final Fantasy IX. Which I downloaded individually, piece by piece, from wikis and stuff.
Does FF9 not have an art book?
Not that I can, well, it might do, but not one that's sort of decently complete. I have got a couple that are sort of like, they have some art from 7, 8, and 9 and stuff like that. But there's no like, this is the concept art from 9, which I would absolutely love. But it doesn't exist. Yeah, I've bought a couple of books in my time that are thinking that they're, concept art books, and they turn out to be more sort of slightly behind the scenes-y things that aren't concept art. Like, here is a piece of paper outlining the idea that the developer first came up with in a meeting while they were bored. It's like, that's interesting. I bought this for art. But on the flip side, sometimes you get something good. So, for example, the Dishonored one. It's called Tales of Dunwall. and it's half art book, half all of the notes in the game. So it's just like on one side of the page is a note from the game, and on another side of the page is art, the concept art. And that got me to read all of the notes in the game. And you know what? Some good world building in there.
Just like every note you can find in the game.
Pretty much, yeah. Like all, well, obviously not ones that are like, this is the code to the safe. But things like people leaving notes for one another, or diary entries, or things like that.
Yeah, I mean, most of the characterization you get in those games of, like, anything is through notes. Because for the most part, depending on how you play the games, you don't have to interact with a single person except for really important cutscenes.
Yeah, characterization in a stealth game is an interesting... Unless part of the stealth is eavesdropping, it's going to be kind of tricky. I'm thinking like Metal Gear Solid, that sort of hiding around corners or using directional microphone. Or in the case of 3, eavesdropping on a conversation from a long distance, where you could just kill the people with a sniper rifle and then they die later in the game. So... Or you don't have to kill them later in the game. I love that. You can just avoid a boss fight by going, oh, hang on, I can kill him here. I guess we'll get to that. Are we going to do all the draw-throughs for Metal Gear Solid? Is that a thing?
I mean, you could. Probably take a while.
Well, the next one's Final Fantasy IX, so that's gonna take a while. Luckily, Final Fantasy IX has a kind of chibi style, not our chibi, but chibi.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna try and big head, small body. So I'm gonna try and big hands, probably. Definitely Vivi, but I don't know. I've never looked at the hands.
Well, I mean, Zidane also has gloves on, but his hands are pretty big.
Yeah, big gloves. Again, as somebody who's been looking at the concept art for that game quite a lot. the thing I really, because I've been using it as inspiration for Avonvale. That's why Avonvale came about. I played Final Fantasy IX, and I'm like, I need more of these towns and cities and people. Because obviously the game is about a group of adventurers who go off into the world, but the towns and the characters and the NPCs and I want more of that. So I made Avonvale. But the one thing I took away from the design of that is there's a very little... I'm not going to explain it. There are very few parts of a design that aren't substantial. So if you have a belt buckle, you've got a chonkin' great belt buckle that feels like it would hurt if it falls on your foot. You know, if you have, like, cuffs on your shirt, then they're big, sort of puffy, chunky things, or they've got big frills on them. Like, none of the design is sort of like a little twiddly bits. It's all, if there's something there, it's solid. And I really like that as part of a design. So that's the one thing I took away. So I guess hands, they did that with hands as well. If you've got hands, they're solid.
Solid hands.
I like how you pose that as an if question, as if there are characters in these games who don't have hands.
As I said that, I thought, is there a character that doesn't have hands? I mean, there are, like, bosses, I suppose, like the snakes and stuff. But... Is there a named character without hands? The first thing I think of is Alleyway Jack, who's got, like, 4 arms.
Got enough hands for everyone.
I guess some of the characters are like anthropomorphic birds, so they have wings as opposed to hands. They don't have, like, fingers. It's like a penguin. Tour-guide penguin. That's the other thing with Final Fantasy IX, though, is one thing I forgot about until I played it about a year ago. Or I guess a couple of years ago now, whenever I came up with Avonvale, is there's like a side thing in the game, so that a lot of characters leave the party and they go off and do other things, and they rejoin and whatever. But they have a thing in the game where periodically there'll just be a button that appears in the corner, and if you press the thing, you see what they're doing. So you get like a cutscene elsewhere, and you can start keeping track of like multiple things that different characters are doing, and it's a fun little system. But it's all optional, so you can just sort of ignore it if you want to get on with the main game. Or you can know what everyone's doing when they're not with you. And God knows how I'm going to do that in a draw through. I now have to deal with a non-linear narrative. What?
At the first
time.
You could let us choose who to pester.
True. But then I've got to remember all of them. Like earlier game, probably I've played the beginning of that game enough, but definitely later game. I just looked up. There is an FF9 art book, and you see a couple of compilations. And you find an art book that looks like it's been out of print for a while, but you know this book. You haven't thought of it in ages, but you know you've seen the cover of the book multiple times. Ooh. Might have it somewhere in the house. Ooh, exciting. Nice. I like art books. I need to do more studies of them. From them.
Yeah, I keep getting surprised at how much I grow when I study something, and then don't do it for a long time afterwards again.
Yeah, it turns out studying is good. It's good for learning things.
Yeah, assuming the study materials you're using are good.
Yeah. You would hope that if they made an art book out of something that it's good art. You would hope.
The trash art book. The garbage art book.
I'd like that. Art books from games that are aesthetically repellent.
Oh yeah. For failed games or something, really old games.
But then again, you can still learn something. There's no good or bad art. There's no good or bad anything. There's just causes and effects. And if the effects you want is to make something look aesthetically horrible, then that would be ideal. You know, what was the game? There was a game that came out that was like an FPS, and it was deliberately just broke every design rule you can think of. But people actually really liked it because that was part of the sort of feel. What was it called? It looks just hideous.
It looks AI.
It looks. I can remember what it was called. Oh, I can't remember. It's called The Art of Final Fantasy IX. That's a good name. Almost positive you have it somewhere. Kira is not only the all-knowing, but the all-having. Is it a recent game? It was like a couple of years ago. It wasn't that long. It might have been last year, actually. It's not like brand new, but
I mean, I can think of a couple of games that sort of lean into that type of thing. So, like, Binding of Isaac looks gross. Like, just all of the art you have in it is just really gross. But that's also sort of the point. But I have a feeling you're not talking about Binding of Isaac.
No. At the very least, in that, like, the UI makes sense. The lines are clean. Objects feel like they were made by the same person.
Oh, so this is even further into the this looks bad territory.
Oh, it's difficult to read menus in this thing. It's quite something. I'm really... Oh, what's it called? If I just type in aesthetically repellent FPS... Will it come up? I'm intrigued. Unfortunately, it's just latched onto the word aesthetic, and now it's giving me nice things.
Yeah, see, when I search for FPS with bad art, it just gives me, here's some things that you can do to fix your frame rate.
FPS game that broke design doesn't get anything either.
Oh, this is annoying me now.
There's a lot of guides on design popping up.
Oh yeah, there are plenty of people who can tell you how to do design. But again, it's always good to know. There are no do's and don'ts. There are no rights and wrongs. There are only causes and effects. Learn the causes and the effects, and then when you want the effect, do the cause.
I feel like this course had this effect.
I mean, they might have dropped it on themselves once or twice.
It's a really awesome shape.
I just wanted to do some weird shapes. And try and go in for some general themes. So I've got tall and thin, small and round, big and bulky, and horizontal lines for this one, I guess.
Couple.
Christy, I know you've got that labeled as a pooch little doggy, but maybe it's just because I've been watching so many videos with ferrets in them. But I'm just imagining a little ferret running around.
Oh, a ferret.
Popping in pouches, staring stuff.
Yeah.
Point to the pouch.
Could be a ferret.
Sticks and plants in boots. Oh, I was going to get itchy. You know when you get a stone in your shoe? Be like that with thorns.
Ooh.
Oh.
I was thinking weed.
The only thing I quite like the silliness of these designs, and I haven't finished them yet, but we are halfway through. I just really want to know what that game was called. Hang on, if I search, let me see if I can find. If I search through the videos of people playing games, there might be. Hang on, I can mute this tab, right? Good. Okay, cool. Just gonna do a little scrolling for a second. I'm looking for Vile Green. This is the streamy entertainment that you're looking for, right? Nothing happening on this. Hang on, let me go somewhere where there's stuff happening. Ah, they're whooshing out of the pockets.
Yee. Whoops.
Oh, that.
That wasn't
It wasn't
the
red this time.
Hey, it was blue.
Yeah, see, anytime I try and search anything like FPS with bad UI, FPS with bad images, all I get is stuff where it's like, here's how you fix your frame rate and/or, like Christy said earlier, here's some design pointers for if you're doing your own game. But
Okay, I found a thing. 10 video games that are ugly on purpose. You better be on here. Oh, Binding of Isaac. There you go.
That's an ugly game. It's a repulsive game.
Yeah, it's Cruelty Squad. That's what it's called.
Cruelty Squad.
Cruelty Squad.
That's the name.
Look that up. Yeah, I don't think these people know what the word ugly means. They're like Minecraft, not ugly.
Ferrets are long guinea pigs, right?
Yeah, kind of.
they're technically rodents.
They're long, but with the same amount of, fat on them. So, so it makes them look less sort of puffy.
Guinea slinkies.
Guinea snakes. Yeah, look up Cruelty Squad, and I think you'll know what I mean when I say it deliberately breaks every rule of design.
Oh, that horribleness. Oh, God. It's awesome and awful. Yuck.
Those sure are some models.
It's seeing them in motion, again, like the UI as well is just like, I still don't quite know what's going on with it.
Yeah. It deliberately doesn't make sense.
But the point being, you couldn't have made that by accident. Like, you had to have a decent understanding of how to make things look confusing or unpleasant or easily sort of distracting or...
I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of really bad, just sort of casual games. It's just sort of made to try and make money quick without any idea of what actually constitutes good design.
The most horrible thing from Cruelty Squad is this thing.
Oh yeah, I think, is that your boss, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Ugh. Bah.
Anyway, it reinforces the point. There is no good, there is no bad. There are only causes and effects, and this person knew exactly what effect they wanted.
Yes. They wanted yuck.
And they got yuck.
This ferret does need to be named Pooch, though, because it's point to the pouch and the pooch pops up.
Pouch.
I like that. I don't want to change that.
I mean, a ferret named Pooch does sound like an adorable idea.
Yeah, right? It's not too bad. It's wrong, but it's cute.
I mean, I can think of multiple cases where it's like, especially with little kids naming things, where it's like, what's the name of the cat? The name of the cat is Dog.
Yes. I follow some art YouTubers that called their old guinea pig Brindle, but it was an agouti. But it really suited it.
I mean, Brindle's just a nice name.
Yeah.
I guess the slight issue with what I'm drawing right now is that presumably the player character can get this armor. So, I don't know how it's going to fit.
No. I mean, it could just, when they try to put it on, come up with a message that this is too nonsensical to fit. Like, I mean, break the fourth wall, like the wizard.
I guess there are like I guess there are like three ways to do it. You could either say your character goes, this doesn't fit, I can't put it on, or you have the magical changing size armor that just happens to fit you regardless of how big the person who was originally wearing it was, like Dark Souls. Or you can do your character puts it on anyway, but it absolutely doesn't fit, and it keeps falling off, and it just encumbers.
Or the model just floats there around your body.
Yeah. Oh, the MMO way of doing it. The WoW armor. As in, wow, it's floating.
With the huge pauldrons.
Gotta have huge pauldrons. That's what pauldrons are for. being huge.
And probably giving neck pain.
Probably. I always have my shoulders up too high when I'm doing stuff, so it'd be quite nice to have some really heavy things on there to bring them down. I should get pauldrons. I need drawing pauldrons.
Medical pauldrons.
Instead of wearing a corset to fix your posture, you're wearing pauldrons to fix your posture.
It will probably have detrimental impacts on my back, but my shoulders will be a-okay. Well, the idea's there. The idea's down there. That's probably enough of doodling that for now. Let's, I guess, spin wheels.
Yeah.
Well, this is a really good stream. What'd you say? The wheels! They're here! The wheels! The wheels! What are we hoping for?
Not puzzles.
Well, puzzles only has one place on the wheel, so we're not going to get it again until we've spun that wheel all the way around. So, yeah, probably not going to get that. I'll get enemies. We haven't had that for a bit.
Yeah.
More flora and fauna items. I don't know. MacGuffins. Have we had MacGuffins? I don't think we've had MacGuffin.
No, just items, I think, and quest item. Something like that.
I mean, you've got key items, weapons, and then just general items. So.
You said weapons as we landed on weapons. Well done.
Yeah.
Go figure.
You're a witch. Wait, hang on. Clues in the name. Where are weapons? Well, I've already drawn some today, so that's good. Unfortunately, I don't have the Golden City anymore.
Lying around.
Yeah, it's weapons. We're doing. Yes, we do have a Project Via website. It's there. There's a gallery with all the stuff that we've made. I have actually updated it with all the stuff we've made. Hooray! Yeah. So it's weapons. The arrangement this time is the Dark has the Viaduct. Christy, you have the caves.
Ooh.
Cave weapons. Ragdoll, you get the floating city, a place at war. So. Probably some weapons in there. Plamps gets the harbour. Lewis gets wizard nonsense. Oh, I want to see some ideas of Lewis wizard nonsense weapons. Kiro has the abyss. Wait, didn't you get the abyss last time? No, everyone got the abyss last time. Oobs has the golden city. Everybody can do the forest. Forest weapons for all. Pointed sticks. I have limbo. I was trying to come up with objects in limbo.
Maybe you can design the weapons that life and death use.
Oh, good point. Good point. Oh, that's a fun one. That's a good prompt. Yes. And Jeeb gets the world. Also, hi, Hail Dragon. How you doing? So those are the arrangements for this time. So life and death. So that gives me an excuse to actually properly draw life and death again in their boss fights. I don't know.
It's something you want to do. That's a challenge.
It's on my big old list of things to do. They can look cool.
Oh,
I want them to
the
look cool.
59 or something like that things.
Well, given these four, it's probably up to 50. Well, no, we did one on stream, didn't we? So 49 plus 4, 53. and then whatever things I'm doing here. But then I can integrate those into the life and death boss fight, I guess. So that's cool. Also, didn't somebody come up with an idea of using the thorny flowers as like a whip?
I'm sure.
Pretty
There's
sure
been a
someone
lot of
mentioned that.
ideas.
There's a lot of ideas, and I haven't written them all down because I'm bad. Right, let's hide the wheels. Back to the thing. You think you had weapons in Limbo a few weeks ago too? I tried to think of something for Life and Death 2, and you couldn't think of something you thought would be good enough. Well, there's your first problem. You're trying to think of something good. That's not what this project's for. This project is for spaghetti, and sometimes spaghetti's not good. Thorn Whip or something was kind of what you were leaning towards, but you think you're the only one. I was the one who was initially thought of it. I don't like that, because that makes me think that I was thinking of my own idea as clever, and that's... I'm not allowed to compliment myself through forgetfulness.
You're too British to compliment yourself.
That's impossible. Sorry, my throat's going a bit weird. It's very hot. Have we mentioned this? It's very hot. Okay, life and death, life and death. Let's have a look at the gallery. Because we have the initial... If I need inspiration, let's go back to the designer of Life and Death. Oobs. Or Oobs made Life and Death. Because the weapons themselves don't have to be like a thing they will hit you with. It could be a catalyst for spells or something like that. A cool gauntlet through which they focus energy. Part of me, I'm just slightly stealing this from the design of the horns on Life, but part of me is thinking something to do with wreaths. Throw a wreath like a... what are they called? What are those throwing things? Like frisbees, but they got a blade on them.
I'm thinking of that 80s movies clip with a guy that has a fedora that turns into a blade. Probably not that.
It was a James Bond one, isn't it?
Oh, was that it?
Odd Job? Didn't Odd Job have like a bowler hat with a blade in it? And like decapitates decapitates a statue with it or something. Again, I have not seen a James Bond film, so this is all
Not
clips
a single
or secondhand. No. I want to, because given my propensity for campy older films, I definitely want to watch the older ones.
Yeah.
But the problem is that I've already seen the Avengers, which I would describe to anybody as if the people who James Bond made by the people who did the Adam West Batman. Like that's how I would describe that show. Oh, the fun fact actually, the thing I went to yesterday, the band we went to go see, the very first thing they played was the theme tune to that program. So I was like, wow, I came to watch you, and the first thing you do is you play the theme tune to one of my favourite shows. Thank you very much. It was a ska version. It was good.
Ska version.
Yeah, well, the band is a ska band from the 70s and 80s, so the Avengers are good. Yeah, look up the Selector. They did a cover of it. I was going somewhere with this. Yes, sorry. So the Avengers is like James Bond, but with that sort of Batman campiness. Emma Peel and John Steed. That's the James Bond-ish character, but much more, bowler hat and umbrella. No CC. I did not say with that sort of Batman penis. Thank you very much.
Jesus, CC.
CC, you really need to learn to listen, or I need to stop mumbling. The Selector, yes. Oh, bless them, the band Selector. lead singer, her sort of image is she wears a snazzy suit, and she looks great. But the problem is this was a very hot day, and the stage was facing the sun. So, and this is a ska band, so there's a bit of dancing going on. Very hot. I can imagine.
Needed a medic at the scene.
Yeah, it turns out direct sunlight, hot.
Steed, yes. Jones, are there any Avengers gifs? Let me find the Avengers
probably a lot.
Well, the problem is if I look up Avengers, I know what I'm gonna get. And it's
Yeah,
not the thing I'm
if
looking
you look
for.
up Avengers gifts, you're just going to find a whole bunch of things from Tumblr from that time period. Well, from the time period of the movie Avengers.
And seen the show since you were a kid. It's great. I love it. There you go. There's a little clip from the opening titles. I appreciate the commitment of the internet to keeping these things alive, and making it into GIF form. The internet did not exist when this show was aired. Yeah, I like this idea. I like the idea of using like a wreath or a floral ring of some description as a catalyst, like Life would use it. No, Life is the feral one. They would probably. Yeah, no, Death would have a wreath. That makes sense, right?
Question: wreath, as in like a Christmas wreath?
Just like a ring of some sort of floral thing. I don't know, I'm trying to think, because like I always remember in various pieces of fiction, obviously the thing that people use to cast spells changes. The classics are like wands and staffs and stuff like that. But then, like, you know, in Dark Souls 1 you have catalysts, which are basically just small pieces of cloth. And then in Dark Souls 2 they have chimes, so they use little bells to cast spells. And I've always liked this idea of just like smaller, sort of less intimidating objects, but that have some sort of strange, sort of mystical significance as being the thing used to cast a spell. And I quite like the idea of a wreath.
Yeah.
Something a bit different.
I mean, there's a lot of East Asian media where usually the spellcasting medium is like a spell tag. So it's essentially just like a piece of paper with stuff written on it.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Where the stuff written on it has to do with whatever spell is being. You see those a lot. And they're based off of an actual thing. I don't remember like what times of year it's done, but there's a tradition where essentially you go to the temple and either by yourself or with the help of the temple staff, varies from area to area, you write like your wishes down.
Yeah, that's not like that Storygate in Japan, right?
Yeah, and then you take the tags and you tie them onto, I think it's usually onto like trees or bamboo trees, something like that. And the whole idea is like it's this magic thing. We're trying to make this happen in the new year. But in fiction, obviously, that goes a little further, where it's like we're going to have these mystical temple people write things on a piece of paper as the actual spell. Instead of it being a spell for good fortune, it's a spell for fireball to your face.
Well, okay, that is a bit of spell.
I was thinking of something called Senchafada. That's not quite the same. It's small slips of paper that you sort of stick on the side of a temple, but it's more sort of like my family was here rather than the spell thing. Really cool though. I scribbled this and now I looked away and I've looked back and I've got to make sense of it. I think I'm doing the same, basically the same pose as I did last time when I drew life.
Well, if you put enough lines down, eventually you'll get something that looks like something. Whether it's what you intended or not is another matter.
I almost made the entire canvas brown this time.
Ooh. We're branching out. Get it? Branch. It's brown. Yeah, Kira, I found mine by typing in Avengers Steed. Peel? Is there a good Emma Peel one? Not really, no. I also want to watch the older ones because I've just seen them randomly whenever they're on TV. But the original Avengers was in black and white, and it actually apparently took itself seriously, which I can't imagine.
I didn't know there was an original Avengers.
Oh, I'm talking. No. I'm talking about The Avengers, which was a TV show in Britain. It's not a comic thing.
Oh.
This was from the 60s. It started, like I say, it started in black and white. So.
Yeah, it was an espionage show.
And like I say, it got sillier and sillier as time went on, and I'm a big fan of it. Give me silly.
This is gonna be the evil curse.
Of course, since the problem with your naming your thing after a couple of common words is that it's not the only The Avengers out there.
Yes.
Like even if you ignore everything from Marvel, there's also a Western film called The Avenger. There's an Australian film called The Avenger. There's a couple of dramas called The Avenger. There's a swashbuckler film called The Avengers.
The thing is, again, this was made prior to the internet. They probably weren't worried about SEO.
Yeah, there is that.
But this was a problem I had during the stream we missed a couple of weeks ago because I had a power cut. One of my little hobbies that I like to do is I like to make games or come up with ideas for games and stuff like that. And I had my chess set out, and I thought, let's make a game with the chess set. And I made this little sort of very simple sort of tug of war-y sort of game, but you can mess with each other's pieces, and it's kind of fun. I hope it's kind of fun. I don't know, it might be very boring. But I sort of looked at it and thought, the setup for this is very specific. If you set this up wrong, then whoever goes first can just immediately win. Which is bad. That's not a fun game. So I spent a while trying to work out like a good setup for it, so that it's not entirely clear that whoever goes first gets an advantage. But I don't know enough about these sorts of things to be able to be sure. So today I thought, well, let's actually try and work this out. Like, under what circumstances could you break this? Can we solve this game, as it were? And God, it's so hard to look up game theory without getting bloody MatPat. It's like, you could have called your thing anything else. Game theory is an established area of maths. Stop getting in the way.
You're making my research very difficult.
It's hard.
It is the game theorist, but I guess it would still pop up.
Yeah, that's still a lot of the bigger things. But yeah, I was trying to look up. I mean, you know, you chuck the word combinatorial in front, you narrows it down. But yeah, I'm interested in trying to work out how to sort of solve games, as it were. So like, simplest examples like noughts and crosses or tic-tac-toe, which is a solved game. You know, you can even if both players are playing perfectly, you can absolutely guarantee that there will be a draw. That is just, you know, you can guarantee that you won't lose if you're good enough at noughts and crosses, and that is just a sort of mathematically certain thing. They did it for Connect 4. Actually, they've solved Connect 4, which is if you are if two perfect players are playing against each other, whoever goes first will win if they go right in the middle as their first move. If they go either space, either side of it, they could draw. And if they go on any of the outer 4 spaces, they're going to lose. And just as their first move. That's enough to fix that in place. The rest of the game is irrelevant. From that point on, it is known. Which is kind of interesting.
Reminds me of the robots playing Mahjong in Stray.
See, that's interesting to me because I know in Go, the game with the little white and black stones that you place on the board, I believe, and this wasn't always the case, but with modern Go rules, there's like half a point added to the score of the player who goes second.
Yes, yeah.
Because I guess there's just enough of a difference where that matters in like professional circuits. So
isn't it a thing where you get a point if you go second, then if you lose in the next game you get 3 points. And it just keeps going up until eventually the handicap sort of fits.
Yeah,
nice.
Something like that.
Also,
I mean, it varies a bit depending on like player level or whatnot, but I do know that in Go there's explicitly rules set up for if you play second, your score is adjusted to account for that.
The alternative I had sort of came up with for this is the idea of some sort of simultaneous rule, so that both players work out their turn simultaneously, and then both reach for their piece simultaneously, and if they both reach for the same piece, then it's a tie, and then the next turn neither of them can use that piece, and they have to come up with something different. And then that way there isn't a first player. Because it's simultaneous play. But then again, that might come up with its own problems, I don't know. Again, this is why I was looking up some game theory. I wanted to do game theory at university, but unfortunately the course was given by the business part of the university rather than the maths part, and they were concerned far more with applications than actual, logic.
Yay.
They wanted to tell you how to use that to make money. And I'm like, no, prove things! I want to understand how it works.
Money. I care about analyzing chutes and ladders.
If I cared about making money, I would have joined the business course from the start. I got pure maths. Do you think I care about making money? That was one idea I wanted to try and do a stream where I attempted to explain my thesis in as understandable a way as possible. Which is tricky, because maths is a series of closed doors.
Well, when going into a math degree, the thing that is considered freshman level math to mathematicians is what lots of people cite as, the hard math, like calculus. And meanwhile, the mathematicians are like, but you need that to do literally anything else.
Yeah. Everybody who goes in any mathematical discipline at university has to do calculus because it's just the basics. Says the person who went on to do algebra. But I'm an outlier, so it's fine. Everyone else uses calculus. You read a manga about a ghost who teaches a kid to play Go and got into it real hard. Yes, I watch Shut Up and Sit Down, a YouTube channel who review board games, and one of the presenters just decided to review Go. And yeah, they got into that as well. They found that. Hikaru no Go? Off the top of my head,
Yeah,
whether
I
that's
watched
correct.
that as a kid, teenager.
There you go. This is, again, I haven't watched any of it, I just knew it from that review. I have all of my information is secondhand.
I've read some of the beginning, but I fell off after a while because there was just other things I was more interested in reading.
I want to play Go because I've found out that like if you look at Go, it's a big old thing, and just the possibility space is just enormous, and I certainly can't keep it in my head. But there are like tiny little boards that you can sort of practice on, like 7x7 boards and stuff like that. I love to play that, like just that. That'd be great. Just tiny little, because those boards are like what small portions of the bigger board will turn into.
If
But
it's
obviously on the
completely,
bigger,
that's so smart a way to learn.
yeah, it's sort of like, let's start by playing chess, but we're just going to do it in this little corner, and there's just going to be one of each piece. Go.
Yeah.
Actually, there is a thing you can do. Well, this is slightly different. That makes it more complicated. But there is looking glass chess, which you can either do it with 2 boards or by splitting one of the boards in 2, which is the one I would do because the other one just makes chess harder. But the idea is, if you split the board in 2, you just got all the pieces on the right hand side now. So you've got like 4 pawns. There's a knight, a bishop, a king, and a queen. And I don't think you have a rook. And so you've just got this like 4x8 rectangle. But whenever you move, you then move that piece to the corresponding space on the other side of the board. And you can only move your piece if there isn't a space on the corresponding side on the other, in that space on the other side of the board. So you're sort of constantly swapping, you're jumping through the looking glass. There are sort of 2 boards happening at the same time. And every time you move a piece, it moves to the other side of the board.
How do you win that?
I don't know, but it sounds interesting. Because at the very least, you're only playing with 8 pieces.
See, I have more interest in like chess puzzles. So
Oh yeah, stuff like
the traveling knight problem.
Oh yeah.
Problem?
We were introduced to that in.
Okay, so the knight is a weird piece. So it moves in that L shape. Move a few up and then over. But because of how it moves, it swaps between whether it's landing on a black piece or a white piece. So if it's on a black, it lands on a white. If it's white, it lands on a black, and vice versa. Yeah. So that means, technically, the knight is one of the few pieces that can span the entire board. It can move to every single every single space on the board. Now, some others can as well, like rooks, but since they move in that, like, just sort of straight line, vertical or horizontal, it's a little boring, and mathematicians aren't so interested in boring problems.
Well, from their point of view, anyway.
Simple problems, then. So, like, if it can be solved simply, we just don't do it. It's like, oh, the solution exists. We move on and do something else.
Yeah.
So the traveling knight puzzle is you have a knight and you have a portion of the board. Now, usually what you do when you're sort of building up the logic of this is you start with a small section of the board and make your way larger. And the question then becomes, how do you move the knight in such a way that it reaches every single space on the board? Only once. It can't go to a space twice. Except for there are some versions of it where you have to go back to where you started. And that's hard.
The whole thing sounds like a nightmare to me.
Nightmare. Get it?
Oh yeah, and when you're dealing with a full board, it is a lot.
Like, I love these sorts of things. I loved them when I was in school, when someone could, like, physically be there to teach me, and, like, the tactile stuff.
Oh yeah, it.
But, like, trying to learn these things myself on a screen, I rage out after 10 minutes.
I feel like any mathematician will tell you, if you can get a physical thing that you can get your hands on that can help you understand something, that is infinitely more useful than a textbook. Practical sort of hands-on manipulations are much easier to get things into your head.
Yeah, I've got a set of what are called spirographs, and I use those when talking about trig function stuff because it makes more sense when you see it.
Visualizing.
Actually, at some point, I need to break out the spiral to maybe show some of you guys. They're neat. Spirographs are neat.
Can Can you say that word again and spell it for me?
Actually, I will just grab a picture for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, see, this is the thing if I do a stream about my thesis, is how do I explain it in any kind of physical manifestation?
Today we draw maths.
The main punchline of it, I guess, or the main punchline of the title. The title was Modular Representations and Invariants of Elementary Abelian P Groups. And basically I would have to explain what every single one of those words means, which is very boring. So instead, I try and come up with an analogy. Spirograph! Hey, look at that.
Those, I love those.
They're great.
Yeah, it's making art with trig functions.
Yeah. It's fun, you just sort of... See, I didn't think of this as like curling up a trig function, I guess. Then that goes into like Fourier stuff. But yeah, the title was like, yeah, modular representations and invariants of elementary abelian P groups. But the way I used to like analogize it to people who don't know maths was, we're trying to make slot machines but with a portal gun, and that's how. How can you make weird slot machines with the portal gun? That's my starting point for trying to explain my thesis. So if you can get that into your head, it should be fine.
I don't think I could have finished the game.
If you can just loop space, that's all you need to... Oh, Miss is here just to tell me that they refuse.
Me too.
Understandably. Now you're thinking with slot machines. Don't think with slot machines, it's unhealthy. Also maths. How you doing, Miss? You right? Have you hydrated? Make sure you're hydrating. Everybody hydrate. Maths. I'm here to draw the weapon. I'm just drawing an action pose. Yeah, I wanted life to have the whip. And death can have the wreath. Which makes sense. Cast medieval ferret border. No, they're just a couple of ferrets having a good synchronized swimming competition.
Yeah, I do love them. I love cursed medieval manuscripts. Animals in quotation.
Oh, you got a mace here, made from like earthquake debris.
Yeah, I'm figuring that since we do have sort of a guerrilla warfare thing going on, and parts of the city are literally falling apart, I figure there's at least some individuals, probably not on the pirate side of things, but on like...
Oh, on the big... Yeah,
maybe on
ones.
more of the mutant side of things, where it's like, screw it, here's a rock, here's some stuff I can attach to the rock to make a handle. It's a mace now.
I like how we have a weapon made from the ruins of a city currently undergoing massive civil war, and above that we've got ferrets in a pouch.
Loves being in the pouch.
You've done so much hydration. Good. Hydrate. I'm not going to finish that drawing because it's not very good, but it will remind me that there's a whip involved. Go away. How's your day been, miss? Been good? I think I'm actually going to redraw the drawing I did of death as well, but with the wreath.
I'm sorry, I'm drawing first, so it's gonna be tippy-tappy for a bit.
Tippity-tap. It's the sound of progress. Warm and severely lacking thunderstorms. We are supposed to get thunderstorms either tonight or tomorrow, right? Well, down here we are anyway.
Can you send some rain over here? That would be nice for my plants.
Hang on, let me see. I'll see what I can do.
I was like, what?
Well, there's an interactive map that I can see like the direction the clouds are heading. It appears to be going sort of north. That's not helpful.
Just pester your local weather wizard.
Yeah, it's heading north. That's probably not going to be good for you. Oh, they've changed it. The thunderstorms are going to happen on Wednesday now. What? Oh, wow. Thunderstorms. The thunderstorms are predicted to happen on Wednesday between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. That's a long thunderstorm. Wow, okay, well. If the stream cuts out on Wednesday, you know why. Maybe I should schedule my thesis explaining stream for then, so that everybody can enjoy when the power cuts out.
Planning a stream to give relief when it stops.
Yep. You could argue that's my business plan in general, but
I did snort at that, by the way. I didn't just agree.
No, it's fine. References. Good to know the thing you're drawing.
Usually,
Yeah,
yeah.
just ask my medieval ferrets. I love medieval drawings of creatures that they didn't know what looked like.
I mean, you might be calling it cursed, but from here it just sort of looks like two ferrets who are just like holding feet. Instead of holding hands, they're holding back paws.
They're holding tootsies.
I mean, cursed and wholesome are sometimes very close to each other.
They're a couple.
You know how tempting it is to just make one of the weapons up in the Flying City just a straight up lightsaber?
We can make it work.
It's light emitting. It's a beam sword.
It's beam saber. Wait, no, hang on. See, hang on. This is the thing in my head that I feel like I need to check before I say this out loud. Yeah. Okay, I feel pretty confident in saying this. Sabers are curved, aren't they?
Yeah.
Lightsabers, very straight.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the only thing that doesn't make sense about them, so...
Oh yeah, there's loads of things that don't make sense, but...
I mean, it's space wizards. It doesn't have to.
Space wizards.
Like, this is not a hard science story
Yeah,
here.
this
We
it's not
don't
a sci-fi.
actually need to come up with a working reason for why this.
This is space fantasy, not sci-fi.
I mean, some of the media has tried to come up with an explanation of why the lightsabers were, but To be perfectly honest, they probably
Midichlorian.
just needed to stop with if there's a crystal inside that is related to force things, which is part of the reason why you have to be force sensitive to use them. And that would have been perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, that makes sense
And
in my noggin.
the better pieces of media that make use of lightsaber lore just sort of leave it at that. Like Fallen Order sort of leans onto the force sensitive thing. It's like part of the story you end up having to find a new crystal to make a new lightsaber. They sort of go through the whole idea of like, oh, one of the traditional things you would do as a youth training to be a Jedi is you would go and find your own crystal, and it has to be you that finds it. It can't just be we pick one up from the department store because it has to jive with you.
That's so Harry Potter. I love that.
And because it's space wizards, you just sort of leave it at that. We don't need to go into the science of how it works. It's magic.
Yeah. I remember playing Knights of the Old Republic. There's a lot of picking up crystals in caves and making lightsabers and stuff.
You haven't watched the movies, right?
No, I haven't watched any of them all the way through. I've watched bits of all of them probably, although I don't really remember anything about the second one.
Now, is this the second one chronologically, or the second one?
Or the second one fictionally chronologically. According to fictional chronological, according to title. The one with sand, I think. People like to talk about sand. I think it's in that one.
It's the one that starts with C-3PO and R2-D2 in the desert getting picked up by a trash collector or something. If I remember correctly. I haven't watched them in many years, but I did fall asleep to them every night as a child.
Oh, probably not those. Well, maybe, actually. Don't know. How old are the prequels at this point?
I think they came out when I was in middle school.
Yeah, like early 2000s.
Okay.
How does one make a ferret magical?
You don't need to.
Aww.
They already look at my face. How do you do? How are you doing this in this program?
I figured out my brushes.
How do you do this?
Yeah, Star Wars Episode 1, 1999.
Oh, really? It wasn't even 2000. My word.
Well, that was the first of those three.
Yeah,
so, yeah. Most people would have associated them with the early 2000s, which for me was about middle school.
I don't. I guess, yeah, it was like the start of middle school, I think. I can't remember the school system here as to how many years. I remember like high school and stuff, but then again, even our high school is different to yours. No, so it wouldn't have been. I don't know. I would have been 7. I'll put it that way. Everyone knows years, right? But ignore school systems. Everyone's school systems are different. Grabbing a cold compress and just got back. What movies were we talking about? Star Wars. We were talking about lightsabers and such. But yeah, if you want to come up with a knockoff lightsaber for the floating city, why not? Basically, partially designed the person who's still flying that city as pretty much an alien. So why not? What is a game without sudden references to aliens? I was about to say what is a JRPG, but this isn't a JRPG. Ferret
A
like
lot of
animal combat.
JRPGs are just suddenly aliens.
Suddenly space.
Ja. Det kan det.
And sometimes it turns out you're the alien all along. And the fun thing is, I'm sure there's a game that pops into your mind, but there's multiple games for that case.
Ja. Okay.
What if we are the aliens? Insert picture of ancient aliens guy. Lightsabers are good. Yeah, try and think of a take on lightsabers that hasn't been done by Star Wars already. Because basically every film they come out with, they've got to come up with a new one. I mean, again, the obvious thing would be...
lightsabers are cool, but I think part of the reason that makes lightsabers cool is the sound design that they used for them in the first movies.
Yeah.
Like first movies, as in
Correctly.
4, 5, and 6.
Yeah,
Like
the original.
The sound design they decided on was just phenomenal. That swung, that humming noise.
They've had consistently
hears
good.
that noise and they're like, "Yep, I know what that is."
Oh, there is one. Is this from the? This might actually be from the second film that I've said I haven't seen, but I've seen bits. Physically makes no sense because it's a film, and it's in space and space wizards. But I seem to recall a thing where there's like a bomb that goes off in space, and basically what happens is, in terms of the sound design, just flying things are flying in space and they're making whooshy zoomy sounds, which they can't because it's space, but whatever. And then someone fires this like sonic bomb, and it sort of goes, and then everything goes quiet for a bit, and then it goes, pew,
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
so cool.
I love that sound. So really, it's good sound design.
Didn't the Death Star make that sound?
Probably. Don't know why you thought of a light mace. I did that. I did that in Googology, didn't I? Was it Biggle Baggle or Boogle? I can't remember who had it. Hang on, let me get the light mace. I was thinking of doing a Googology follow-up. But I'm also thinking about doing 70 other things, so it's... Never know. There you go. Light mace. This was apparently Biggle. Oh yeah, Biggle was the small one, I remember. Biggle, Baggle, and Boogle. If I do, given that most of my sort of sci-fi jokes in the Googology video were based around Star Wars, if I do a follow-up, should it be a prequel story? I feel like it ought to be. I like them. I want to see their misadventures.
So,
Like a bunch of
4,
goblins.
3, and 7 were partners.
Unlike that.
So from before 3 and 7, something was partners. I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Yeah, tree 3 and fish number 7.
Fish number 7.
Well, I guess it'd be even before that. It would be maybe tree 3's in it, but maybe they're not like the tree 3 we know and love. Maybe I did mention there was a fish number 4, so maybe that's
Yeah.
maybe that's on the cards.
Maybe that's like the long lost brother or something.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, should probably specify. I did a video a while ago based on a thing called Googology, which I described as a pseudo-mathematical thing because it's not real maths. No one's proven anything. But basically, it's like a bunch of people want to define very, very big numbers through dubious means. Largely, it seems just to give them stupid names. And having looked at a list of stupid names, I thought, these all sound like weird science fiction characters. So I turned them into weird science fiction characters, and I made a video about it. And it's silly. But the discipline is called Googology, and it's of my videos, actually, on that channel. It's evoked the strongest response from random people who like Googology. Either positive or negative. Some people really mad that I didn't give certain numbers more power. And other people who are just
Some people are weird.
Yeah, some people get a bit invested in these things. Like I said, my favourite one was when someone just went, "What are you doing? This is stupid. Tree 3 is much bigger than that. It should be godlike." And It's like you managed to pick on the one design I did that is actually based on the maths. Well done. The reason they look like that is because of the combinatorial construction of the number. And I express in that they can grow near infinitely large. Well, not near infinitely, but big. Which is the point of the number. SMH, your damn head. SMH, MDH. I was tempted to turn
Sounds
the M's
like a
into
music.
Y's. SMH, MDH, yes. The best alternative rock.
I'm creatively pooped. So enjoy my ferret.
I will enjoy the ferret immensely. Look at it. They want to help. They want to help.
Yeah. They're at your service.
Look at them. They deserve pouches
Also,
as
they are
well.
a ferret, so sometimes help involves crimes.
Yeah.
This is not particularly well defined.
There was a video someone posted. I think it's their ferret. Where, like, their ferret just sort of likes to steal things and hides stuff, which makes sense. It's a ferret. But it's like, right, so sometimes he'll just grab really strangely large objects and try and drag them off. Like, one example was like, here's a lamp.
Oh no. I hope it wasn't plugged in.
They want to scavenge. Get stuff.
Scavenge for lamps.
I still think my favorite ferret video is still the one where it's like, oh, it's a little ball pit. You sort of poke at it, and then suddenly a bunch of ferrets are just sort of wiggling around in the ball pit. It's like, oh.
Well, hello there.
It's a ferret pit.
Ferret pit. Oh, that's the best snake pit. I really love your action pose of what's the word? Life.
It's basically exactly the same one that I did last time.
Oh.
But now with a whip.
Well, the whip makes it look very dynamic.
Oh, I didn't have the one that I did of death. Oh well, I got this one now. Yeah, this is the one I want to do a good render of. So I will hybridize the two pictures I did. But yeah, I'm going for the sort of flowery, thorny whip for life, and the wreath as a magical casting thing. Is the laurel wreath a weapon? Yes, that's what I'm going for. This idea of using it to sort of summon magic.
Like, I couldn't picture it at all when you talked about it. And it's just such a fucking good idea. How did you come up with it?
How do you turn flowers into weapons? I don't know. It's just like, again, go back to Dark Souls 2 and this idea of just like little bells as casting spells. And I'm like, you could use anything, can't you? As long as it has that sort of mystique to it, it works.
Yeah.
So wreath. And they can do some cool things. I imagine, like, there's people who do like shows with like big bubbles, and they've got like these big hoops that they swing around and make huge. They're doing that, but with magic, and it's killing you. Just very graceful sort of hoop gymnastics.
So they are wearing
wreath.
shorts and a backpack and a bit sweaty. That's my experience with people doing that.
Yeah. Should we call it a rest for the day?
Works for me.
Well, some good stuff was done. Some armor was drawn. We've got a big old lumpy hammer. Music puzzles. Try and come up with some ideas for that, actually. Keep that running in the back of my mind. Many pockets. Everybody deserves pockets. And also
especially.
also ferrets in those pockets. Everybody deserves pockets with ferrets in them. And yeah, some life and death stuff. And we shall now go off to discuss weaponry. And by discuss, I mean not talk about until next Sunday. But yeah, thanks for coming along. I will be back on Tuesday with more Neo. Yes, it's not over. Turns out there's 3 DLC I didn't realize I had. And also I did a level off screen with that, but I filmed, so you should be able to see it, but it was weird, so I have to show it to you. Anyway, we'll see. You'll see it on Tuesday. It's fine. Then on Wednesday something will happen, probably creative, if not Neo, because I'm uncreative. Then next Saturday, Raft. Fingers crossed. We'll see. And then back to this on Sunday. I hope everybody has a lovely time. I hope things cool down for everybody. I hope thunderstorms come your way if you like thunderstorms, and if not, I hope they bugger off.
Bye.
Bye.
Sorry, I was waiting for a sneeze. Bye.